Spotlight.
Good evening, listeners. Welcome to today's Spotlight. I'm Deeksha Saxena, and today we will be discussing the Panchayats Extended to Scheduled Areas Act. We have with us Mrs. Nisha Oraon, member PESA Center of Excellence Program Advisory Board, Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Mrs. Oraon, welcome to Akashvani News.
Thank you.
In 1996, the Panchayats Extension to Scheduled Areas Act PESA came into force. This landmark legislation restores and protects the rights of tribal communities over their land, water, forest resources, culture and governance systems. It extends decentralized democracy to tribal communities by empowering tribal Gram Sabhas. So, Mrs. Oraon, first of all, I would like to understand from you, and I would want you to explain to us what exactly Panchayats Extended to Scheduled Areas Act, which is also known as PESA, is.
Good evening, everyone. So the PESA Act was passed in the year 1996 on the basis of the Bhuria Committee. So what was PESA Act? What was the need to pass it? Basically, through the 73rd Amendment, Parliament had enacted Panchayati Raj system in India, through which the three-tier Panchayati system at village level, at block level and at district level. They were empowered, and this was done to ensure people's participation from the grassroots level. Hence, the Panchayati Raj system was enacted all over India. However, there was one exception. All the PESA states, which are 10 states, there are 10 states in India, which are declared as Scheduled 5 states or PESA states. So in these states, the Panchayati Raj system was not extended. And why was this done? Because these 10 states having tribal population, they had their own unique system of traditional governance. So traditional self-governance, we should say, or Swaraj. So now the government did not want to impose upon or interfere with these traditional governance systems of tribals. Hence, the Bhuria Committee was formed, it was constituted, to give recommendations with regard to these 10 fifth scheduled states. This Bhuria Committee studied all these 10 states and the tribal communities and their practices, and finally they arrived at a conclusion and submitted their report to the government. Based on this Bhuria Committee report, the PESA Act was passed by the Parliament, and through the PESA Act, the Panchayati Raj system, the three-tier Panchayati Raj system, was finally extended into the remaining 10 states of Bharat, that is India.
Very well explained. I would also like to understand from you, can you delve into the facts and details of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, which is the backbone of this act, and you also mentioned about it?
The 73rd Amendment, through this the Panchayati Raj system had been enacted. Now, the whole purpose of enacting Panchayati Raj system was to ensure people's participation in government schemes and programs and policy making. Currently, all over India, there'll be panchayat at the village level. At the block level, there'll be another body. In Jharkhand, it is known as Panchayat Samiti. It will be known by different names in different states. And at the district level, there'll be Zilla Parishad or District Panchayat. This was a three-tier system to ensure that everybody gets a proper representation in governance and in policy making and in participating in government schemes. That was the whole purpose. Swaraj is a very ancient concept in India where the governance had always belonged to people at the grassroots level. Swaraj is basically people. In the preamble of our constitution, the preamble reads as, for the people, by the people, of the people. Correct? Basically, bring into force this concept, for the people, of the people and by the people. That's why the Panchayati Raj system was brought and enacted all over India.
Moving ahead, I would also want you to explain this to us, that what is the role of Gram Sabhas, and the role of Gram Sabhas, I believe, is very central to this act. So could you please explain this to us?
Let me bring up this phrase, Lok Sabha na Vidhan Sabha sabse bada Gram Sabha. You would have heard that. And what does this phrase actually mean? So in governance, in the government, there is a top body at national level and then at the state level, and policies are made for the people at the grassroots level. So the government has its own machinery through which these policies are implemented and rules are enacted. Now, the government wanted to ensure, and the constitution makers wanted to ensure, that all the policies and all the schemes were equally implemented at the village level also, where all the beneficiaries were selected properly, beneficiaries to the schemes, where the mapping was done correctly to identify resources, and where plans could be properly planned and recommended as per the local need. So government machinery was intact and in place, but the government also wanted to encourage the common people to participate in this whole process. So hence the Panchayati Raj system was enacted. Through this, at the Panchayat, the village headman was elected. Along with him, he had his own, you can say, sort of cabinet, which comprised of ward sadasya and other members. All of these members at Panchayat level, they all had their own unique function, and they were all supposed to assist government to map the resources, to give proper feedback as to the gaps where the planning was required for balanced regional development. Hence, this is why the Gram Sabha is important. This is Gram Sabha's role. Basically, the Gram Sabha is in place to fill in the gap and to give proper feedback so that a balanced regional development can take place as per the local needs.
Taking a cue from what you have just explained to us, I would also want you to explain how impactful have the Gram Panchayats been for the local self-governance?
The Gram Sabhas have actually been very impactful because they are a channel, they are a medium through which the common people find ways to express their aspirations to the government. Now, for example, in a particular village, there may be certain lacks, certain needs, and the people at district level or at state level, they do not have so many employees who could possibly map out the gaps and the lacks for each and every village. That is practically not possible. So the villagers, when they elect a mukhia, then the mukhia becomes their representative, the village headman. And the village headman voices what people want and what people need. So, and since he is elected, hence he takes due care to accommodate what people want and what people need, and he is very much accountable to them. If he fails to perform and if he fails to perform as per their aspirations and to voice their concerns, then he may not get elected next time. And his accountability is very, very deep because he is right at the grassroots level. In an ideal system, the village headman is supposed to take into account all these grievances and all these needs and give proper feedback to the government. Not only this, under various government schemes, especially by Government of India, all these plans for development at Panchayat level, they have to be formulated by the village headman and his cabinet. Hence, this kind of ensures people's participation in the formulation of their own development scheme. Now, this is very, very empowering. Imagine, a village needs certain plans and policies as per their local needs, and the village headman is empowered to formulate those plans and policies at the village level, which is accepted by the government and for which funds are also released. Hence, this is true empowerment. The Panchayati Raj system indeed is a true empowerment, and giving power, delegation of powers to panchayat and villages is true empowerment and true democracy.
Also, I believe PESA has empowered the tribal communities as well, and that is one of the core purpose for the ministry to celebrate the 2-day PESA Mahotsav. We'll come to the Mahotsav later, but I would also want you to explain how empowering has this act been for the tribal communities.
In the beginning, we had discussed why Panchayati Raj was not extended into 10 scheduled areas earlier and why later through PESA Act. So basically, these tribals, they have very unique traditional governance system. And here, I would like to point out, in the tribal society, let's start with the state law. In state law, it is supposed to be a secular law, the state law, right? Religion and laws and traditions, they are separate. They are kept in different compartments. However, in tribal society, religion and laws and policies, they are all intermixed. You can say that all the practices and customary laws of tribals, they all have a spiritual foundation. They have a sustainable way of life. The reason for the sustainable way of life is the spiritual foundation, because they worship nature. They regard nature as God. Because of this, they have a very sustainable lifestyle, having a very balanced outlook towards nature and towards all other living beings. So in tribal society, law is different than the state law. When the modern laws came into force, and naturally they were enacted and implemented all over the country. So these tribal areas, they had their own laws which were in existence from hundreds of years. Both of them, there was a potential for conflict between these two kinds of laws. Also, the state law at some points and at some places was trespassing into the tribal belief system. We can talk about it in detail later. So now to balance both of this, PESA was enacted. And because of this, because of PESA, the tribal government system got a recognition. Now it was always in place, but there are potential for conflict between the modern state laws and the traditional tribal laws. They were growing after independence because of the interaction between these two kinds of laws. Hence, PESA was very, very important, and PESA became a milestone because it gave a recognition and a legal existence to the traditional laws of tribals. Now, PESA says that PESA gives protection to the social, the religious norms, and the customary laws. So, all these three are given protection by PESA Act. It says that no state government will enact laws which are inconsistent with the traditional customary laws and religious laws and social laws of tribal bodies. There's only one condition, that these tribal laws should not and cannot override the fundamental rights of citizens. That is the only condition. Apart from that, PESA Act ensures that there is compatibility between the state law and the tribal laws. Therefore, PESA is indeed very, very important. It's like a bridge. It's like a bridge that connects the state laws to the tribal laws.
Very lucid explanation. The Ministry of Panchayati Raj is celebrating a 2-day PESA Mahotsav, Utsav Lok Sanskriti Ka, on December 23rd and December 24th, that is today and tomorrow, this year in Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. So let's first listen to a report from our correspondent on the celebration.
The Panchayati extension to scheduled areas Mahotsav began today in Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. The Mahotsav was inaugurated by Shri Konidala Pawan Kalyan, Deputy Chief Minister and Minister for the Panchayati Raj and Rural Development, Government of Andhra Pradesh. This 2-day Mahotsav will culminate with the PESA Day celebrations tomorrow. The Mahotsav marks the anniversary of the Panchayati Raj Extension to Scheduled Areas Act. At the main event in Vishakhapatnam, inaugural celebrations started with the unveiling of the Mahotsav mascot, Krishna Jinka. PESA Run T-shirts and caps were released, and tribal sports like Chakki Khel, Uppanna Barelu and Gedi Doud were organized to exhibit rich cultural heritage. Around 1,500 participants from 10 states are taking part in the Mahotsav. The PESA Mahotsav seeks to spread awareness about this act and empower the tribal population by providing them with a national platform to celebrate their cultural heritage.
Lastly, Mrs. Oraon, I would like your parting comments on the objective of celebrating the 2-day PESA Mahotsav.
I believe that PESA has brought about the potential for cultural renaissance for tribals. Because of the modern influence, the traditional bodies and the traditional laws of tribals were undergoing erosion. So PESA gave them a kind of cover, a kind of protection, due to which there's a new potential for cultural renaissance. So PESA Act is actually a milestone. Hence, the government feels the need and has felt the need to celebrate this day, 24th December. Why 24th December? Because PESA was enacted on 24th December in the year 1996. Hence, this PESA Mahotsav is a reminder to the country and to the tribal population also, in particular, a reminder of the government's commitment and the commitment of the Constitution of India to protect, preserve and to honor the culture, the tradition of even the smallest percentage of population of the country. So hence this Mahotsav basically is a celebration of how Constitution recognizes tribals and of how the government and the country is committed towards the preservation and the welfare of the tribal population.
That was actually a very explanatory conversation with you, Mrs. Oraon. Thank you so much for giving us such deep insights on this very important subject. You can listen to this program on our mobile app News on AIR and on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. Thank you for joining us in Spotlight tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Spotlight.